Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking with Jill Drippy, the former Nevada Democratic Party chair, on the subject of Iraq when we come back. 40 years ago, Hotel California and the theme from Rocky were #1 on the pop charts, and D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal started on the road to becoming Nevada's leading roofing company.
I couldn't be more proud of what we've achieved.
And over these 40 years, we've become an employee-owned company. So when you're talking to any employee, you're talking to an owner.
And here's to the next 40 years.
Happy 40th birthday, D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Jill Drippy. She's the former Nevada Democratic Party chair. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Nice to be here.
One of the things that you do, that we've talked about many times in this program, is you help to run the American University School in Iraqi Kurdistan.
Right.
What is going on there? Because the last time we talked, they had tried to declare their independence to a large extent and paid a horrible price for that. Have things calmed down since then?
They've calmed down. What I want to say about that? It hasn't been good for Iraqi Kurdistan that Barzani chose to do that. Nobody else was supporting him, and only his own political party was supporting him, not the other political parties up there in the north. But the American support seems to me on the surface to have weakened a little bit. And a lot of that is because in Iraqi Kurdistan, the political parties can't get their acts together and work in any kind of united, sort of like in the United States, you might say, not so different. But there are strong political parties there that can't get along, and I think that discourages the U.S. support a bit. Having said that, the other thing that's going on, I mean, several things are going on, really. One of them is that our dispute with Iran and heightening those tensions has really stressed that region. You know, Iraq is neighbors to Iran, and the Kurds always have had a pretty good relationships with Iran, where our university is only 30 miles away from Iran. So there's a lot of worry about what's going on with the Trump administration, with John Bolton, who seems to have wanted to attack Iran for decades, although I think we've been relieved. But when I was last there, which was really just last month, I was there for commencement, was when the State Department announcement came out that non-required dependents should leave the country. I mean, that was really upsetting and stressful. Now, it didn't affect our faculty. We're up there in the quiet north, and we're a little out of the eclipse of that. But nonetheless, it just heightened the tensions, and any kind of war in the region would be devastating. You know, Iraq as a government is trying to get its act together. It, for the first time, has really focused on Iraq first, rather than the three divisions that are in Iraq competing, as they did after we invaded, and it sort of let the Pandora out of the box, and so those three factions, the Shia, the Sunni, and the Kurds all were vying for power and territory and so on and so forth. There's a real focus in this new government. And by the way, the president of Iraq, Barham Saleh, was the chairman of our board of trustees, and he's the founder of our university. He and I worked together quite closely when I was vice chair of the board. I'm the chair of the board now. He is a real stabilizing force, and the focus of this new government it's the best one they've had and the best chance they have. But whether or not they can overcome the kind of factional competition and animosities is hard to say.
Is there a similar split between the Kurds in Iran as the Kurds in Iraq and the Kurds in Turkey?
Well, there certainly is a split with the Kurds in Turkey. Not all Kurds in Turkey support the PKK, and their kind of violent, more terrorist-oriented tactics. But I don't know much about Iran. They're a more, what I want to say, submerged group. They haven't been as active in terms of fighting for their independence, not for a long time. Occasionally something comes up. But in Iraq, that's certainly the case. But you know, really, Sam, people talk about tribal politics, but we've got the same thing going on here. And it's hard to get people to focus on nation first and the common good when your loyalties are to a particular political party and where there's so much patronage involved. The problem with Iraq has been it's all about patronage politics. So whoever gets elected, then you know if you're part of that party, they'll find a good job for you. And I was watching last week a web program that involved 3 of our faculty, actually. It's with the Middle East Institute here in Washington, D.C., and 2 of our current faculty and 1 former were all part of it. And they were talking about how the federal government is trying to consolidate and pull people together and focus, but yet it's the political parties that give you a job. And there are even some places, and everybody was laughing about this, where there are more people on the payroll than there are chairs in the building. And somebody on the panel said, well, why don't they get more chairs? You know, so that's the solution. But that's, you know, what's going on. It's this entrenched system of patronage politics. So you support the parties are strong because they'll give you a job. And then the parties also control certain resources. So you look down in Basra, which is in southern Iraq, the seaport, where there were big protests last year, and a challenge for the federal government to deal with. In fact, I don't know that they've really done it, but one of the problems is that the different political parties control different resources, like the permitting to the ports or the licensing of certain processes. So you always are working through political parties and their patronage, and they all want their skim off the top.
Right.
So trying to get things done in the face of that entrenched patronage system of politics is very tough. We're lucky in this country we haven't come to that. There's some of that, but it doesn't control the whole system.
And that goes back, of course, to Lincoln's time and before. So, I mean, patronage is not anything new. Would you say from now versus 10 years ago that Iraq is in a better place?
Iraq is in a better place only because it's poised to be in a much better place. This government, with Barham Saleh as president, but in Iraq, as in many places, the president is the power source, it's the prime minister. But the prime minister is a good man, actually. And he's been given a certain amount of time to try to deal with this whole system that keeps the country from coming together in a more unified way. And so far, it's not sure whether he's doing it, but you got good people there. So that is encouraging. That's all I want to say is I would say it's better. It's in the road to recovery from where, I mean, when we invaded in 2003 and fired all the Baathists, in fact, such that they couldn't even have employment, and they were the majority of the people that were employed, you know, things disintegrated into just a tribal sort of fight and vying for resources, political power, and so on. And that's been the state of things until now. But this new government has really talked about fighting corruption. And that's a big charge. It's very tough to fight corruption because that's how the whole place has worked. Patronage, jobs, even when, you know, there's one place where there's the head of the railway up in the north. There are no trains there. So, you know, you have that kind of a system. So
I'd like a job like that.
Right, yeah. So anyway, but this is a government committed to fighting that kind of corruption and that kind of a patronage system that keeps anything from moving forward, certainly as it concerns Iraq as a nation. So,
okay, so if we go back 5 years,
Yeah.
there was an incredible amount of investment from abroad in northern Iraq.
Yeah.
Is that still going on, or is that tapered off?
well, it probably has tapered off a bit. One of the things is that there's money that's come in for reconstruction. But if you look at, for instance, Mosul, that we did defeat ISIS. They defeated ISIS. And the paramilitary militias, they defeated ISIS. We provided air power. We claim our victory, but over there, that isn't how they see it. But it destroyed most of the town. The city, it was, Iraq's second largest city, and a very modern city with universities and institutions. It's just a wreck if you look at it. I mean, part of the city has been maintained. But one of the things that complicated about the international aid coming in for reconstruction is all the patronage politics that come into play about who's the cement contractor that you go to.
Right.
And who, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So some of that hasn't been, there's a huge delay. It's sad to see that people can't return to the city because it isn't being rebuilt, because there are all the politics that intrude, and it gets down to the competition for the particular contracts and how that all plays out.
All right, let's take a break. We'll get back to the Middle East after this timeout.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia.
Yeah.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jill Drippy. She's the former Nevada Democratic Party chair, also used to be chairman of the Board of Regents here in Nevada. And we're talking about the Middle East, an area of great expertise that you have here. Does it surprise you that Israel and Saudi Arabia, under the table, have become so close?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. What do I want to say about that? Saudi Arabia is playing a bigger and bigger role over in the, a lot of what the politics in the Middle East and what happens is about these proxy wars. And Saudi Arabia is just a very wealthy nation. And if anything, it shows what wealth can do. But that alliance is not terribly surprising to me. I mean, they're against, for instance, moving Trump's decision to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Of course, they would oppose that. But if you think who they are more worried about, for instance, they're really afraid of Iran. And Israel is the biggest hawk in that region in terms of Iran. I mean, the Trump-Israel tight connection is a lot about Iran and seeing them as the biggest a troublemaker in the region. So that's a natural. I think that Saudi Arabia is very afraid of Iran. That Iran is a powerful state in its own right, and certainly our sanctions have hurt them. But that's the big competition that's going on over there, and a lot of the rest of this is proxy wars. Look what's going on in Yemen, the poor Yemenis that we're starving to death, and our weapons are involved in that war. That's entirely a proxy war. I mean, Iran has supported the Houthi rebels, and Saudi Arabia is pushing back against it. But so I think there's a natural alliance there. It's all about Iran. I mean, that conflict and that competition is driving the region. And Iraq, is right in the middle of all this. And I just read last week that Barham Saleh and others were over in Jordan and we're trying to negotiate. We're in Saudi Arabia. We're trying to just negotiate and figure out how to calm the tensions in the region. Iraq will pay a very big price if there's any kind of war.
Right.
And Israel expects us to go do it, by the way, mostly, and give them cover. But they regard Iran as their biggest enemy now because Iran has continued the mantra of Israel's illegality in the region.
Right, and they are solidly on their northern border. Now they're on the Syrian border. The only border that is different, even though you have the Palestinians there, is the southern border. And with Egypt now, and El-Sisi has become perhaps the ultimate strongman.
Sure, absolutely. That's sadly, when I think about it, because there was so much hope around the Arab Spring. And, the demographics of the Middle East are most of the, third plus of the country are young people, and they don't have jobs, and they want some freedom, and they, really they pushed hard for it. And, of course, the Saudi monarchy is terrified of that because they're a family affair, that they hold power absolutely and execute people that disagree with them pretty freely.
Yes.
So, I mean, Egypt is following that example, and that's the sad pattern in the Middle East, and in fact, we see it around the world as these strong men seem to be putting down the resistance. We see it now in Venezuela. We see it in in a number of places.
Yes, it appears to be
Sudan.
the way. And of course, so many of these countries are involved with oil. As the United States becomes more energy independent, does this take away any of the power of these other countries?
Well, one would hope so, but I don't know. I mean, the Saudis are playing it smart and in terms of trying to diversify, and they held that big summit there, bringing in, industrial leaders and corporate heads and so on and so forth. They really realize there's a point at which oil's not going to be the big thing that it has been, but they hope to have built up their resources enough that they can maintain the kind of power base that they represent. I mean, I have to say, Sam, I think it's shocking, given that the prince is himself a murderer, and that I'm proud of our Senate and our Congress that they're willing to condemn that, but embarrassed that our president just considers that a fact of doing business. He's not, his ethics are a little different.
So I'm going to take the devil's advocate position here and say that there's blood on every leader's hands.
Yeah, but it isn't like it's equal at all, Sam. I mean, you can't equalize what some people do. For instance, now Kim Jong-un is executing the 5 people, the unfortunate individuals that were on the negotiating team at his last summit.
That's kind of
okay. No, but I mean,
the leader of that was supposed to be dead, and
Saudi
came back.
Arabia again just executes and imprisons and so forth. I don't think you can make a equivalency argument at all there. If you want to hold to any kind of ethical or international standards that have been established, by the way, in international charters and so forth for human rights and so on and so forth. No, there's a real difference. A lot of blood on our hands, no question, but look around the world and you'll see there's no equivalence.
Well, I remember interviewing Bob Gates many years ago when he was in town, former head of the CIA.
Sure.
He was actually the head of the CIA at the time. And I just sat next to him thinking to myself, and the same thing with Benazir Bhutto, was that these two people who are charming and gracious have ordered people to be killed.
Sure.
Because you can't be the head of the CIA or the head of Pakistan and not have done that.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting position to find oneself in.
Well, I think it is, but we still are a nation of laws. And if you're accused of a crime in this country, you have the legal ability to defend yourself and be innocent until you're proven guilty. That isn't the case in a lot of places, so you can't even make an equivalency argument about that, I think. There are differences, and certainly look at Europe and look at other parts of the world that are nations of laws, and there are certain restraints on the exercise of just brutal power to dominate your citizens.
Well, and I agree, but I mean, if our leaders in the United States were not as tough or tougher than other leaders around the world, there would be something wrong with the United States for how much money we spend.
What does that mean, tough and tougher? I mean, haven't we always wanted to have the support of the world because of the ideals we hold up, the values we have?
On the top layer, absolutely.
Okay.
But if you look at all of the situations that the United States, and I'm totally in favor of the United States, so don't get me wrong here.
No, I don't think
we have intervened in many places around the world, including Iran, famously with the Shah of Iran.
Yeah, famously.
Cuba, Venezuela. I mean,
it never seems to go well, by the way. Have you noticed that?
I do.
Yeah, Sam, I don't think anybody could accuse us of being weak. If you look at that, we don't play that hand at all.
And like I say, I would be very angry if our country was sitting back and just being hit by everybody and not having a forward-thinking situation.
No, but you can be strong and you can be moral and ethical and hold to high principles, which is how the U.S. has always been admired in the world. It was until our recent president is really, frankly, taking that down because he operates out of sort of, the bully and beat you up to get your way, winner take all sort of approach to things, rather than recognizing we're now in a global order and we probably ought to be considering that there are global factors that are going to impact us all, and that we ought to try to work with other people in the world to mitigate some of the worries that we're facing, not only climate change, but hideous resistant strains of antibiotics and health issues and all the things that, and nuclear war.
Okay, but I will also throw at you that we have to look at this from a situation of we won't really know what kind of president Donald Trump was for 30 or 40 years, maybe even 50 years. From a historical point of view, we can see what we see obviously today, but whether he was right or not, we won't know.
What do you mean? But you'd have to say right about what or what or what or what. There's no question that he has degraded the standards of civil discourse in this country.
Okay,
he's a crude, ignorant guy. Now, I can tell you that we'll know sooner than later about whether that's lasting damage or whether that's just a blip on the screen that will come back to a belief in civil discourse or not.
Okay, so I will give you crude. I won't give you ignorant because I want the test of time for history to show that. Let's take a break. More Retail Derby when we get back.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we have a minute left with Jill Drippy here, the former Nevada Democratic Party chair. You like Pete Buttigieg. Why?
Well, what a refreshing voice he is, and what a contrast. You know, he's somebody so authentic, comfortable in his skin, so well informed, so articulate, able to answer questions straightforwardly. I've been really impressed with the interviews that he's had. So you know exactly where he stands, but he's a balanced sort of guy. I don't know. I think there are some really great candidates out there on the Democratic side, and he would be a very, very unusual candidate, but the contrast with Trump is so like neon light glaring that I think that's something that appeals to me too. He's thoughtful, he's smart, he's well educated, he presents himself so well, and he's a authentic good guy.
And that's where we got to leave it. Jill
Okay.
Drippy, thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll give you the other side of that argument later.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Don't forget, another way of watching Nevada Newsmakers is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast.